Welcome to Latin America. You should have completed the map. If you don't have all 16 items labeled, you can see them here. And now we're going to talk about those dots. I'm going to present you with 11 different images, and you are going to attempt to match these images to one of the dots on your map based on what you have observed about the different things, as well as the information in the clues and the questions that you labeled. Let's take a look at our first image. This is our first item, item A. Take a look at the details in the image and see if you can decide which dot on your map this most likely could represent. Look around, look at the details in the background, foreground, the middle. When you think you know where this is located, write an A next to the dot. I'll give you a few more minutes to think about it, and then I'll give you some information. This is Lake Titicaca, a traditional center of Andean culture located in the Andes on the Peru-Bolivia border. At 12,500 feet above sea level, Lake Titicaca is one of the highest large lakes in the world. It is the third largest lake in Latin America. Indigenous Andean villages and terraced fields line the shores of the lake, as can be seen in the picture. The relatively high constant temperature of the lake water, 51 degrees Fahrenheit, limits the temperature range, enabling local people to grow maize and wheat. The lake's islands of Titicaca and Cuati are the legendary birthplace of the Inca, and ruins can still be found there. Take a look at this next image. Note the details of the image and try to decide which point on the map you think this might be. When you think you've located it, write the letter B next to that dot. I'll give you a few minutes to think about it. Note the details that you see in the image and what they might correspond to on your map. This is the Sierra Madre Oriental in the eastern part of the main mountain range of Mexico, which also includes the Sierra Madre Occidental and the Sierra Madre del Sur. The Sierra Madre Oriental begins just south of the Rio Grande, near the United States border, and it runs southeast for 700 miles, parallel to the coast of the Gulf of Mexico. The Sierra Madre Oriental and the Sierra Madre Occidental enclose the plateau of Mexico, meeting in the southeast. Mexico's highest peak, which is on this range, reaches a height of 18,700 feet, and many of the higher mountains are snow-capped, like the ones shown here. There are many deep-sided canyons in the region, as well as many precious metals, such as iron ore, lead, silver, and gold. Look at this third image. Imagine where on the map this might have been taken, and write the letter C next to that dot. Look carefully at all of the details and try to decide what the most logical place of this might be. This is the Rio Grande, known to Mexicans as the Rio Grande del Norte. It is a 1,885-mile-long river flowing across southwestern United States and Mexico. Its source is in the San Juan Mountains of Colorado, from where it winds through New Mexico along the Texas-Mexico border and empties into the Gulf of Mexico at Matamoros, Mexico, and Brownsville, Texas. Most points, except those near the mouth, are unnavigable due to the river's shallow, winding path through steep canyon walls, such as those shown here. Dams and reservoirs along the Rio Grande provide water for irrigation and drinking water. Look at this image. Dashing waterfalls, high rocky cliffs in the background. Where might image D be taken? Choose a point and label it D. This is the Orinoco River, which begins in the Guiana Highlands in South Venezuela and forms a wide arc as it flows along the Venezuela-Colombia border and then out to the Atlantic Ocean. It passes 1,500 to 1,700 miles through rainforests and savannas, ending in a marshy delta where it meets the ocean. The Ature and Maipures cataracts, waterfalls, shown in this picture divide the upper and lower parts of the river. Most of the Orinoco is navigable and is used for shipping and transport vessels. Look at this image, a winding, muddy snake in the midst of green fluffy. What could this possibly be? Locate this point and place the letter E on it. Did you select the Amazon River? That is correct. Reaching 3,900 miles from its headwaters in the Andes Mountains to its outlet in the Atlantic Ocean near Belém, Brazil, the Amazon is the world's second longest river, after the Nile. It carries more water than any other river in the world, gathering water from most of northern Brazil and parts of Bolivia, Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, and Venezuela. As it travels east from the Andes, the Amazon passes through the largest rainforest in the world, which covers 35% of South America's total land area. Scientists have estimated that the vegetation in this immense rainforest produces half of the world's supply of oxygen. Here we have another image, and where could this possibly be? Think about the features that you've labeled on your map and try to identify the point where this image might have been taken. Write the letter F at that point. This is the Atacama Desert, located in northern Chile, stretching south from the Peruvian border. It is bordered to the east by the Andes Mountains and to the west by the coastal mountains along the Pacific Ocean. The 600-mile-long stretch has virtually no vegetation, and some parts have never received measurable rainfall. The desert has been mined for nitrates and copper, and agriculture is restricted to very narrow strips of arable land. Look at this very different feature. Might look similar to something you've seen flying overhead as you traveled across the United States. Where might this image have been taken? Identify the point and write the letter G. These are the Pampas, wide, grassy plains of Argentina that extend into Uruguay. They cover roughly 300,000 square miles and have been used for cattle grazing since the 1550s by Portuguese and Spanish settlers. In the second half of the 19th century, European farmers immigrated to the area and brought the land under cultivation. Agriculture remains the chief economic activity of modern-day Pampas in Argentina, which exports wheat, corn, flax, and oats. This picture shows wheat fields during the wheat harvest. What could those fluffy white dots be? If you look carefully, you might notice a ranchero in the distance. See him sitting on horseback with his trusty sheepdog and all of the herd of sheep going up the hillside and across the plains? Where might this have been taken? Write the letter H next to the point you think it might be. This is Patagonia, a 300,000 square mile region located primarily in southern Argentina. Most of the region is formed by a wide, wind-swept, semi-arid plateau that slopes gently up to the east, ending in the cliffs along the Atlantic Ocean. As shown here, sheep raising for wool has been the principal industry of Patagonia, though oil is increasingly important in the region. Sounds like Alberta in Canada. Note the details in this next image. There are pyramids, streets. It looks like an excavation, not an original image. There are mountains in the background, and imagine which point this could represent. You might possibly even notice city in the background. write the letter I next to the point where you think this image might have been taken. It is Teotihuacan, a metropolis established in the valley of Teotihuacan on the northeastern side of the Valley of Mexico. Teotihuacan was a great center of religious and political life from 350 to 750 CE, and the urban area of the city is estimated at over 12 square miles. The Temple of the Sun, a 215-foot step pyramid, rises to one side of the Avenue of the Dead, the central axis of the city. This video shows a view of the Temple of the Sun and the Avenue of the Dead. The smaller structures on either side of the avenue are thought to have been bases for temples and ritual activities of the people of Teotihuacan. The Valley of Mexico is a plain hosting broad, shallow lakes that support agriculture for the region. Note the differences in this pyramid ruin, and also that it is not near mountains. It is on a broad, flat plain with fluffy white clouds in the distance. Imagine which dot this might represent, and write the letter J there. It is Chichen Itza, located on the Yucatan Peninsula, which separates the Gulf of Mexico from the Caribbean Sea. This site was a capital of the Toltec, who conquered the Mayans around 987 CE after fleeing from central Mexico. The Toltec were master artisans and architects, and Chichen Itza is a magnificent site whose structures appear to have antecedents in Tula, the former Toltec capital, and the Mayan pyramids of Tikal. The Yucatan Peninsula has a tropical climate and hosts extensive hardwood forests, as the surroundings in the image portray, along with tropical wildlife. The main industries on the peninsula include henequen, a hard fiber used for mats and ropes, fishing, lumber, and tourism. Note this image as well, the vast mountains and rivers, and in the corner you will see a civilization tucked high away, so far up in the mountains that it was not discovered for a great many years. This city is one of the dots on your map. Label it with the letter K. Machu Picchu is a ruin of an Incan settlement that contains an architectural center surrounding a plaza and an extensive terraced area for agriculture. As shown in the image, Machu Picchu is located atop a steep hill, which is in the Peruvian section of the Andes Mountains, a sacred place for the Inca. Machu Picchu contains fine examples of Incan architecture and stone masonry. The Andes Mountains stretch along the western edge of the entire continent of South America, forming the world's longest contiguous mountain range. They reach greater heights than any other range besides the Himalayas. In Peru, the Andean system widens into the high plateau country that also hosted the Incan civilization. Take a look again at your map and make sure that you have the 16 geographic features labeled. Also make sure that you've included the design from the key to help show the size and extent of each of these areas. Finally, make sure that you have the letters next to each of the points based on the information and the visuals that you saw earlier in this movie. Now that you know a little bit more about Latin America's physical geography, we'll be deciding where we think people in Mexico would most likely live and what their life might be like. See you tomorrow in class.